Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I welcome you back to part two on the discussion that we're having concerning that wonderful historical site called the Clark House Mansion in Kootenai County on Hayden Lake. Mr. Lewis Clark and his wife came to this region, and the whole thing is just a fascinating story, and we covered much of that last week. But now we're going to talk about it's being restored, and the owner, Monty Daner, is back with us again. And Monty, last week was just fascinating. We thank you for coming back so we can also have some footage in a little while showing what you've done to it and how you preserve this incredible historical facility. And the whole story is just so fascinating. So welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony.
And please have back our regular panelists, Janelle Burke, who's an attorney in Idaho, and Erna Reinhardt, who's the Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College, and Janelle will commence the questioning.
Mr. Danner, last week we talked a lot about the house and the history of the house, but you found this marvelous house, but you were not alone in your work to reconstruct and to change it back to the way it was, because it was in pretty poor shape, I understand, when you purchased it. And so then you went to work and you renovated the house. Who helped you with that project, and who were the main movers?
There were some reluctant people around. The primary focus was my partner, Rod Palmer, who stayed. I bought the property in November of '89, and he stayed in the San Francisco Bay Area with his insurance company until June of '90, when he moved to northern Idaho and came on board full time. A year later, my youngest son, Matt, joined us and has been instrumental in doing a lot of the gardening and the mechanical and the maintenance work and the carpentry and a lot of the heavy grunt work. And he's continued to be with us for all of these years. He loves Clark House, and a very important part of that. And then my oldest son, Mark, came to be with the family and started working with us in 1999 and is now actually managing the Clark House with his brother, Matt. So between those three guys and me, we went on a journey.
Now, you saw some pictures, I take it. You probably looked at pictures of how the house was and then started your renovation project.
That's correct. We were fortunate enough to be able to find some old photographs. Obviously, we knew that the systems securing the house, the electricity, the heating, those things had to come first. And so it was, we had 36 leaks in the roof, so we knew that we had to take care of those things in order to start with the cosmetic aspect of being able to put the Clark House back together and make it beautiful like it is today.
And the finished house is composed of how many rooms?
It's about 20 rooms now. We have 10 guest bedrooms and several rooms for entertainment. And then my quarters, which is a very nice living space, a large living space, which was originally part of the staff quarters. So I think I'm probably where I belong.
Erna Reinhardt.
Monty, tell us how the house is used today. I know that there are lots of events out there, and you've mentioned that it's a bed and breakfast, but give us kind of an overview of how the house is used today.
On the West Coast, bed and breakfasts are very popular and something that's been around for a while. But on the East Coast, inns have been very popular, and in an inn format, they also serve the dinner meal, and generally will have licenses for beverages, alcoholic beverages, beer and wine. And we wanted more of the inn flavor for our particular property because we had 10 bedrooms to rent. All of the bedrooms had private bathrooms. It was important for us to get away from the mom-and-pop bed and breakfast concept, which is somewhat new even to this day, and people are learning more about the inn experience. We use it primarily as the bed and breakfast. However, we do have a reservation-only dining, a restaurant for dining. We do lots of corporate retreats, lots of meetings. The college is hosting meetings every other week at the Clark House. Beautiful weddings. There are magnificent mansions here in the Northwest, but there is nothing that is more beautiful than the Clark House for a wedding. Afternoon teas. In the past we've done those. We haven't been doing them recently, but afternoon teas have always been a wonderful hit at the Clark House. And of course, this time of the year, as you'll see on some of the footage, At Christmas, the house is magnificent. It is a Christmas house, and we bring a designer in from Southern California who stays with us for a week and actually does our decorations, so it's magnificent.
Awesome.
I have worked on this program and actually been the program producer for 32 years, and I think I know the viewers by now, and I can just hear them at home saying, "Let's see the footage. Let's see what it's like now." And
Show them, Tony.
We cannot deny our viewers. They are the people that we're so involved with and so appreciative to them as for our guests. So at this time, we're going to run footage, and we have 3 particular shots. And we want to thank Jeff Crow and his staff coming out to your wonderful place and doing this footage. And as they run this footage, Monty, you'll take us through what it all means, and it's just some breathtaking footage that we have now for you to talk about, if they will put that up at this time.
I would love to, thank you. Oh, this is probably a year before I bought the property, and the house is really in pretty good shape. No, this is not footage. This is fairly recent.
This is
footage,
recent. This is
yes.
the footage now of it. As it
Yes,
now,
this is it is now.
As you have brought it back to its magic.
Yep, and you can see some of the Christmas decorations were at the front door. Now we're at the reception desk. We came in from the carriage entrance, and we're looking through the reception room to the formal dining room. This is the grand staircase today. We saw some footage last week, and today this is some of the Christmas decorations that are up. One of the downstairs fireplaces. Every room has a fireplace. And this is the mantel in the reception room. A view from the reception room. The grand piano there to the right. Beautiful round table in the center of the room. Some little sitting areas, but of course that magnificent view in the background to the lake. And as we pan around there, we're going into the formal dining room. You can see can't quite see the fireplace. That room will hold 48 people. This is the crystal chandelier. It's from France. I purchased it in San Francisco. It's not original to the house. Some of the wonderful furnishings that sit in the reception room so that the guests can sit and chat and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine.
Another fireplace?
Yeah, the fireplaces. The marble on the fireplaces was all ripped away. This is all new marble. This is the door looking out to the back of the house with the beautiful gardens in the back. And of course, reindeer, they come and visit us daily.
Not just during the holidays.
Not just during the holidays. This again is the reception room looking back toward the carriage entrance.
Well, that was just remarkable footage, and we're going to ask them to bring up the next footage, and they have to have a little time in between them, and so you can describe the next one. And I believe that was pretty much the lobby area. Now we're going into the dining rooms, I believe, in the next footage, if they'll put that up at this time.
Yes, this is the formal dining room. That fireplace faces the fireplace in the room before. If you look carefully in the mirror, you can see the chandelier in the room behind it. Now we're panning around, and we're looking through the 2 double French doors toward the lake. And the mural on the ceiling was done by Academy Award-winning artist Jack McCullough. That's a recent mural. It was done in his studios in Los Angeles, and it took about 10 of us to get it up there. It's almost all one piece, so a little bit, some strips on the side are separate. The alcoves that house the Kaiser Wilhelm trophies. This was originally Mr. Clark's office. You can see, as you look through the door there out to the putting grounds, he had a little putting green. I guess if he got tired counting his money, he would go out there and shoot some balls. His fireplace in his office, all black marble, and a great picture of Mae West up there. This is the original library. Every book in this room was covered in green leather. They would have the books rebound, and every book was leather. This was one of the finest libraries. Dr. Geiser would come here and study in Mrs. Clark's library after Mr. Clark died. We use this today as a private dining room, as a corporate meeting room. This is a set of books I found with the Clark crest, his bookmark. The gate actually has the Clark crest centered in the gate, and that was from Undercliff Mansion, his home in Spokane. We're still panning around in the library, looking toward the back of the house now. We do dinners in this room as well. It's a magnificent dining room in the evening. It's the candles and the glow are really pretty.
There are times when adjectives are not sufficient, and this is one of those times that I just marvel at what you've done. And the third footage we have while we're doing these particular videos is the sleeping quarters, and that you've talked about those already. And we're going to show those this time, and we're going to show both, I guess, Mr. Clark's room and Mrs. Clark's room. And so here it goes now.
It's not unusual for wealthy people to have separate bedrooms and bathrooms. This is Mrs. Clark's bedroom. It's done with some beautiful French antique furnishings. It overlooks the garden at the back of the house. It's very quiet and peaceful, a very large room. And of course her bathroom and dressing room were beyond. Mr. and Mrs. Clark's rooms both have beautiful corner fireplaces in the rooms, and I'm sure she spent many evenings by the fireplace. I can see her there on a big lounge enjoying a nice book with a nice mink stole that Mr. Clark had thrown over her. This is Mrs. Clark's fireplace.
So in her bedroom was
In
the
her
fireplace.
yes, in her bedroom. Of course, there were no television, so you see lots of bookcases in the rooms. Of course, she read everything. Her beautiful French antique bed. Not original, of course, but I'm sure something that she would like. And this is Mr. Clark's room. We're going to go in and take a look at his space. This room was a bit larger than Mrs. Clark's. However, these two rooms were set aside on a separate wing of the house. He, of course, had the big canopy bed, and the window there beside his bed overlooked the putting green with beautiful views of the lake. And as we come around, you'll be able to see the wonderful corner fireplace and the bookshelves in his room as well.
That is a very large room.
It's a wonderful large room.
Again, the restoration has been just remarkable.
This is one of our more popular rooms for bed and breakfast guests. It sits at the back of the house, so it's very quiet and peaceful and has views of the garden. In fact, if you look just outside there, you can see the hillside, and the deer will come down and peek in the bedroom. You have to be careful.
I think that's a place I should go for a month and restore my energy. And we go at such a pace anymore in life. But as we're watching this video, Monty, and Monty's been a very good friend all the years he's been here. I did visit Europe, and I took students, and we went and saw the summer home of Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, and I declare that those rooms are just as great as those rooms like Catherine the Great. So it's a remarkable place, and we thank you so much for allowing us to show this to our viewers. And with that, I'll turn to Janelle.
Mr. Danner, you have renovated the house, and you've attempted to stay in the spirit of the original house, but you've also furnished the house, and you, of course, could not have all the furnishings that were there at the time that Lewis and Winifred Clark lived in the house. So how do you guide yourself as you begin to renovate and refurnish the house? What kind of furnishings do you select and choose?
Unfortunately, there were no pictures of furnishings that were in the house except a very small photograph of a library with some nice little settees and some chairs and some oriental rugs. However, I was very fortunate to meet Mary Lee Shepherd Gray many years ago. She has a beautiful home in Atherton. Her father was a judge when the Clarks were here, and when the Clark furnishings were auctioned, they bought about 30 pieces. The pieces were separated through the years, but she still has about 20 of the pieces. And I was fortunate enough to be able to visit her in her home, saw the actual furnishings that belonged to Mrs. Clark. Many French things, and I know Mrs. Clark went to school and studied in France. And so we were able to pick up, because they were furnishings from the reception room area, from the library area, the one photograph that I have, and then she had pieces from Mrs. Clark's bedroom that were magnificent French antiques as well. So we got a pretty good idea of what the furnishings probably were. And we've just kind of carried it out and taken some artist liberty and done the decor around what we think would have been appropriate for the time, keeping in mind that we're also a business, and we have to be practical about some of the things that we use so that it works for today. But it's amazing how it still works so well.
And I suppose that what you do is you go and you select, but you from time to time find something else that you like, and so you replace and update. Is that what happens?
There's always a place for something new in that house, so I'm always on the lookout. When I see something that I really like, I'm going to find a spot for it because
and it
it's
fits
appropriate.
in the spirit of the house.
Exactly. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Monty, I need to tell you this, that my husband and I are bike riders, and we've ridden out to the mansion in the early 80s and actually walked through it when it was very dilapidated and all the windows were boarded up. And I have seen it since you've refurbished it, and you have done an incredible job.
Thank you.
To give the viewers a little bit of insight as to the magnitude of the house, I think you told us last week that there's 16 bathrooms, which is incredible. Tell us a little bit about your staff, how many people you have on your staff, and are you open year-round? And if people would like to make reservations, how would they do that?
Reservations, of course, are always available by calling the Clark House, and we will answer the emails, of course, and we can do reservations that way. Generally, we end up on the phone because we like to keep it as personal and make sure that we're accommodating the needs of all of our guests. In the past, we've closed a couple of times during January, and this year again we're closing. We're taking a couple of our staff people for a nice vacation to the sunshine in Mexico. But we are open all year round. We do a lot of retreats during the January, February, March quiet time. It seems like businesses and the institutions in the area are setting some standards and goals and doing their budgets, so that keeps us pretty busy throughout the year. In the summer, I can run as high as 25 people on staff. In the wintertime, we'll run 7 or 8. Full-time chef who is magnificent, and my housekeeper who's been with me for many, many years keeps me in line, and several others, because both of my sons work very hard, and it's obviously a tourist summer-winter business, but there is business, and we are open all year round, and we're open for dinner 5 nights a week, and you don't have to be a big group. You can come in as a couple or as a single if you wish. We just need a reservation in advance.
Great. Thanks.
I'll follow up on Ernest. One is we gave the website on the first show. We're going to do it again because there's always some viewers that can't be with us every week, and it's up there now. But your website's www.clarkhouse.com. And I assume on your website you can have all this other information, how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely, yeah. Descriptions of the rooms, some nice photographs, costs, prices.
However, there are people who do not have computers.
That's true.
That's true. So at this time, let's give them a telephone number, if we could, please.
The telephone number is area code 208-772-3470 or 1-800-765-4593.
I'm protecting my viewers again, so somebody's running for a pencil and hadn't quite gotten there yet when we did that.
Thank you.
Monty, let's do it one more time. Again, the telephone number is one of them is 208-772-3470, and then you have the 800 number, which was
1-800-765-4593.
Thank you so much, because we certainly want people to be able to see what you have, and it's so beautiful. And also, you're the historian, so you can also share some of your historical information with them. Let's talk about food. That's always a wonderful subject. And I've had the pleasure with other guests of mine that we go there. And I believe the last time we were there, it was a 7-course meal. So share with us some of your menus that you have and the kind of food that people can enjoy. I said to a dear friend the other day that I love banquets. We have a human rights banquet over here. And I said to her, I could go to a banquet every night. She said, I don't know how to respond to that. I'm just speechless. And I said, but I think food is such an incredible part of socially getting together, or we who work in human rights. So I want you to talk some about the food menus.
Well, food and good wine and wine beverages in the Clark House taste even better. We do serve 6-course dinners. We serve 3-course luncheons, generally a soup or a salad, a nice entree, dessert, and beverages. Or we serve a 6-course dinner, and we start with an appetizer, a soup, a salad, an entremet. We have 4 choices for entrees generally, and then the dessert and the coffee service. The costs run between $45 and $55 per person, including the entire 6 courses, and the cost is determined by the entree that you select. Always our beautiful Clark House tenderloin of beef. I think everyone in the Northwest has heard about our tenderloin of beef. It's fabulous. Some type of a fowl, a fish, or a seafood. And we're very open, if we know in advance, to doing special dishes, and we certainly respect special diets. So I would like for the viewers to know that they don't have to hesitate to ask us to prepare something if they have a special diet.
Just be sure you keep that chef.
He's a great chef,
Isn't he?
yes.
Oh, yes. Well, with that, I'll turn back to Janelle.
Well, your house is beautiful, and I have been there and participated in a couple of weddings as well there, and they've been beautiful. But what advice do you have for other people who might be out there who are thinking, I can't do anything as grand as what Mr. Danner has done, but perhaps I can upgrade my house or make it keep it more in the way it was when the original owners lived there, or maybe they just want to do some updating. What kinds of advice do you have for people, particularly if they have a house that might have some historical value?
Well, of course, that's the key. I think any home that has historic value, whether it be a carriage house or a log cabin, certainly has value, and each of us becomes a caretaker of a particular property. And I got the grand property, but there are so many other fabulous. I work in Boise with the Moses Alexander House. I'm on the board for that, and it's a much smaller house. However, the governor uses it to entertain. And it has such a wonderful character and history that I would encourage anyone that has a house with any history, and architecture, of course, would be the secondary thing. When you have a house that has a unique architecture, preserve those things. We need to do those in every small way and in every large way, and as a community and a group, we can do that. And I've always felt the responsibility to really protect our history and our heritage from the architectural standpoint and the history of those that have gone before us. I got a grand house to work with and lots, and I'm still working on it. But certainly every old home and every architecturally significant home is very important, and we need to protect and to understand the history and to record the history just as we're doing now.
And I want to give just a little opportunity for you to tell us. You said you feel very much in kin with the family who lived there at one time, and you would you please express a little bit of that, as people might feel that way about their houses?
I think anytime you've lived in someone's house, and as you go from room to room and realize or try to realize what their thoughts were when they did this room, and the care and the dedication that went into the Clark House was extraordinary. You do get caught up in what you would like to think is part of their awareness about how the house worked and what the views were about and how the rooms were used to entertain. And I've always been able to do that. So I definitely feel a very close relationship to the Clark family, to Winifred and Louis particularly. I know that they're up there guiding us and helping us with our work, and I know that they're proud. When I was able to have the grandson and since in the great-grandchildren here, there's a lot of encouragement, and there's a closeness with that family that I can now reach out and touch and talk to, which has also helped me to become very aware of how fortunate I am to be able to live in a place where I can share someone else's dreams. And to some degree, I think that by putting this back together, we're completing and we're helping to continue to include their dreams in the world that we all have to share in today and for future generations, and that feels good to me. That makes me feel good and warm.
All right.
Monty, would you say that the Clark House, that your project is complete, or are there a few little things that you'd like to add?
A few little things. First, we have 12 acres, and we haven't even started with the gardens. So, you know, the interior of the house and the first phase of going through the entire house has taken 13 years. And now we'll go through and do phase 2 and really put the polish on it. But we bought a tractor, and we're looking at books and studying. We haven't brought the architectural landscape architect in yet, but those are the things that, for my focus, my sons are running the core of the business now, but my focus is to start on the gardens and try and put gardens together and eventually have a 12-acre park that will be part of this community for ever and ever. And so that's the focus for now, and I don't think it'll ever stop for me. I've got a lot of work to do.
You indicated that it was on the historical register, and there are a number of buildings here that are in the west, but the east is older in settlement, and so there are more of them there. Would you take just a minute, Monty, to tell us why it's important? I think the fact that it was on that really helped save it. Without that, it probably would have been lost because there was some contact with the owners. Tell us the importance of that.
Well, placing your property and writing up a history and registering that is a fairly simple thing to do when you think of the long-term results. So fortunately, someone had the foresight, and even though information that was submitted at that time was not correct, and we have been able to find out and correct since that time, it attaches a significance, and there is an awareness that these properties are out there, and we need to take a second look before we start doing anything to destroy them, or we need to look at them from the perspective that what can we do to save this property. So the National Register, of course, throughout the country has been very instrumental in saving many of these properties that I'm sure in Idaho 20 years ago it was a white elephant, and everybody looked at it and everybody felt bad, but it was a huge undertaking to be able to do it, and people were committed to other projects, and it was just at the right time, and I was at the right place, and I wanted to make the commitment to do it, and so therefore having that in place saved it for me, and I was able to get in. Fortunately, the State Historic Preservation Officer was notified, and that in itself was a saving grace.
On that note, we're going to have to bring the permanent inclusion. In a minute, we're going to show a mural, and you're going to take us through that as we go off the air, and I will not be coming back on and I'll greet our viewers now to say I hope you'll be with us again next week, but it's been a marvelous 2 weeks with you, and thank you and congratulations. With that, we'll show the mural.
Thanks, Danny. This mural was done by Jack McCullough, the artist that was nominated 4 times for Academy Awards and Film Festival Award winner. That shows the Clark Mansion in Spokane, the Undercliff Mansion, which is known as Marycliff today. And they were driving in their old car out to Clark House, and their new summer home is being constructed on the hills of Honeysuckle. They call this Honeysuckle Lodge, and Honeysuckle Road is still the driveway that goes out to there. The house is completed now. It's the summer of the month. It's summer of the year, and they're having a garden party. And the artist tried to capture some of the things that would have happened at that time. I read an article about a yacht party at the 4th of July, and when I read the article, this painting was already on my mirror, on my walls. It was uncanny how he visioned that before I even knew about it. This is the winter scene. The house has been destroyed and set vacant for many, many years, and that's the ghost of Lewis. He's sad, but hopefully if he could see it the way that we see it now, he'd have a nice smile on his face. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking such an interest in Clark House and the community in general. Without our community and without all of the help and support, this never could have happened. Everything from licensing to permits to the fire department and the highway department. This has been a combination of a community support effort that is just unbelievable.
We thank you.
Yeah,
You called yourself, you and Rod.
Yeah, it's been a wonder.